people connect with people. You're never going to see a large brand doing something cheap, being visible. The main core message, regardless of anything you do, is add value. Well, I mean, I'm personally very passionate about video, but when we're talking about content, obviously, if you're going to have a strategy, it's everything from the visual content you create, whether it's the carousel posts and the graphics and the animations, and or there's a photography that you add into your campaign. But I would say going as far as just the interactions you have on social accounts, your strategy DMing people, your strategy with WhatsApp. There's so many things you could be utilizing in the content space. And I think the key then becomes, what do you do with it? Whether you go for an organic approach and hope that you're able to attract an audience through the content, or whether you go for a paid approach and actually target your relevant customers and hope for those conversions. I mean, I remember back when websites first started, in order to check the credibility of a company, the first thing you do would go into Google and you check a website. I actually think that's evolved a bit now. I actually think people are more likely to go to your social media pages and check you out before they check the company out right now. Not just that. I mean, I heard recently that I think it's as high as 77% of people are more likely to do business with a company if they're following the CEO on social media. And I argue it quite regularly because, I often meet a lot of people who feel like social media is a waste of time, digital marketing is a waste of time, where they feel it's just for watching cat videos and, fun content, and don't actually realize that this is now a legitimate business strategy. It's a business development tool to help you get the conversions you need for your business, whether you go the organic route or the paid route. Like, it definitely opens up those doors. I'm a big believer in video content, but having said that, the type of content, I think the most Googled words at the moment are how to and how do I, which means everyone is wanting to learn. So it makes the most sense to create content that educates people, that teaches people. Having said that, entertainment is also very popular. So you're looking at education or entertainment. I happen to think entertainment is a bit harder because I think it's very subjective. Like, what you find funny and what I find funny may not be the same. I have a friend who thinks everything he says and does is hilarious, and I'm like, no, not funny. But genuinely speaking, it's a difficult one to have everyone tick that box. But with education, I feel you can't go too far wrong. And regardless of which industry you're in, you have a wealth of knowledge there that you can share. So when it comes to education, it's everything from the secret recipe, I think, lies in your frequently asked questions. If you really look at the kind of questions you receive from your customers, why not turn all of those answers into content? Again, I believe in video content, but even carousel posts, education posts, blogs, because they're going to want to keep coming back to learn more. So definitely looking at your FAQs is one to look at. Another one is testimonials, because generally people connect with people. If you've recommended someone, I'm going to pay more attention to that recommendation than I am anything else out there. So even Google reviews, to be honest, think about how many times you search and just seeing those recommendations, how that changes your perception of a company or a brand to the extent that you're willing to buy. So I think anything in the realm of testimonials or case studies and showcasing exactly how your product or service has really helped improve or increase the benefits for your customers. So education, number one, frequently asked questions, testimonials, case studies, those are definitely some of the main ones. How-tos are big, demonstrations are big. So I often tell people it varies from product to service and also the ability to showcase something. But every industry is able to do a how-to. Even if you're an accountant, even if you're a software company, a software company can do a screen capture to show people how to use the software. So I think regardless of which industry you're in, you need to think to yourself, how do I educate people by demonstrating? What is a how-to step-by-step that they need to follow? So that's another one. But the main core message, regardless of anything you do, is add value. Because if you're adding value, then people are going to keep coming back for more. And that really can differentiate you. And gradually, there's something, everyone knows I'm very involved in the world of networking and, BNI is a big one for me. But something I learned, which applies to content, is the power of VCP, which is being visible, being visible, 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 visible. The more visible you are, the more top of mind you become. And then that eventually leads to the C, which is the credibility. If you're adding value and people are learning from you and it's building your credibility, then they have V, 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 C, 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 C. Eventually, it'll get to the P, which is the profitability. Yeah. So when they get to that time where like, oh, I really need that service, you're going to be top of mind. I'm going to just speak to a different audience right now, who are the people who aren't ready to spend 5,000 dirham a month, and say there's another way. There is another way, because whilst I understand the power of targeting and reaching that exact customer, huge value to that. I think for me, what's worked is just being consistent with my content. It's taken time, admittedly, it's taken time. But I also think there've been other benefits to doing it my way. Because over that time, you learn the kind of content that is resonating with your audience. You trial and error, you try different things, and it's a bit of a trial and error process, but also you're kind of building that credibility long term. So I've kind of got to a space now where I see an ad as a very functional, I've got a purpose. I'm either launching a product, a service, a workshop, and I need that extra boost or that extra push. Might make sense for us to do an ad campaign. But as a consistent strategy, at least in my case, I've found that the regular consistent content creation has really, really helped, because as long as you're consistent, as long as people are seeing you, then, I've got to a point now, because I've been consistent for a couple of years, I'm sure ads would do great things, but even my regular posts do result in conversions. They do result in people DMing me or people clicking on a link, because I've built that equity, so to speak. Those who are fans of like the Gary Vees of the world, I'm a fan of Gary Vee, but his content is everywhere every day. He's like a content machine. So, and he often says you should be everywhere, because, you never know, who is going to see you on Instagram versus who's going to see you on LinkedIn. I get it. But if you don't have the resources to churn out that level of content on a daily basis, same thing, if you don't have the budget to split it across all these platforms, rather find the platform where your target audience is active, right? In my case, I know that my target audience is on LinkedIn. So therefore, it is in my interest to really double down on my LinkedIn strategy and just keep posting consistent content on that page, versus trying to dabble in the world of TikTok or trying to dabble in a platform which may not give me the same result. So I would say double down on your energy and your content creation on the platform where your target audience is, and you're likely to see higher results, and you're not spreading yourself too thin across all these other platforms. So I learned something a few years ago. I'm sure the percentages have changed, but it really opened my eyes, which is, do you have any idea the percentage of your audience that's the same between Instagram and Facebook? No, but I genuinely thought that, I'm comfortable on Instagram. I've kind of given up on Facebook, because Facebook to me is like, that's where my mum is. I go make sure she knows I'm okay. I post there every now and then, but it's not really a strategy for me. And I kind of gave up on it until I found out that apparently only 10% of your audience is the same. 10%. So when I realized that, I don't customize or create original content for Facebook. But at a minimum, I share the same content that's on Instagram. It gets shared on Facebook. And just that means that 90% potential of new people seeing that content that haven't seen it before. If there's a way of repurposing, repackaging, and not utilizing all of your efforts or spreading yourself thin, then that does make sense. I think that's an excellent question. And I don't think it's either or. I think it's both. I think it's and, because they serve different purposes. So, for example, in our case, which I'm sure many, businesses out there, you have different types of customers. So if I'm working with government, I'm working with corporates, I'm working with high-profile individuals, perception is reality. They need to see a polished professional side to me and my business. And that's where the professional videos make a difference. I don't want someone to watch something which has poor sound, poor lighting. They're going to be judgmental about, it's sad, but it's true. They're going to judge very quickly about my ability to do a job with them, which is why I think you need to think about who's consuming your content, who are you targeting, and does it warrant you spending the money to produce something professionally? And I often think that if you've got high caliber clients, you do need that part to your business because that's your brand. That you're never going to see a large brand doing something cheap. They're going to hold their brand weight and film something that's professional. So I think you need to think about your brand positioning and film accordingly. That's when it comes to your brand content or reaching that specific audience. Having said that, in the world of digital, in the world of social media, we need to be generating a lot of content. So any idea how many videos an organization releases per month, average? The average is 18. And most people I'm meeting, I'm trying to convince them just to do one a week. Do one a week. Do one a week, which means you're doing 4 or 5 a month. The average company is doing 18. So those 18 don't all have to be professional, polished videos. I do think we're in an age where everyone has a phone. Their mobile phones have very great cameras these days. Selfie videos work. More casual, authentic videos work. Get a simple tripod, a simple microphone, a simple light. Start filming basic educational content on your own. That works. So anyone who follows me will see that at least once a week, I have a polished, edited video that goes up on my LinkedIn. But the rest of the time, it's usually stuff I've done on my own, on my phone, especially on my Instagram feed, because that also connects with people in a very different way. So they relate to you a little bit more, they see a different side to you. And I think we're in an era where people want to see both. They want to see okay, this is the professional side and this is what you're capable of doing. And this is the personal, more authentic side. And this is the person we're going to be working with and how we connect. So to answer that question, I think, budget, you don't have to have a budget right now. You can start on your phone. But when you get to that point where it's important to have your brand positioned a certain way, start looking at working with an agency or upskilling. Have the right objective so you understand the kind of content to produce. So create content which is either educational or entertainment, but with that objective in mind so that you're reaching your target audience. So number 1 is definitely the content, the objective. Second is the consistency. For the love of God, don't give up. I see so many people post those first few videos, and then what is going to happen is video number 1, all your friends and family are going to love it. Video number 2, not so many. Video 3, they're going to go quiet. And then by video 4, people are like, oh, it's not working anymore. And they forget that we're not producing content for our friends and family. We're producing content to attract a whole new audience. So number 2 is consistency. Get through that hurdle, keep going, and you will start to attract new customers. And number 3 is honesty, so just do it. Just do it. Pick up your phone. Worst case scenario, because I have so many perfectionists in the world, all these excuses, they're excuses. And I'm saying it because I used to be one of those people. But the last 5 years, I got to that point where, you know what? I'm doubling down on my knowledge. I have value, I have knowledge, I'm embracing it and I'm sharing it. So if you go back to my top 3 points, embrace number 1. Embrace the knowledge that you have, educate people, and that will give you the confidence to start putting yourself out there and getting on camera. Because trust me, no one cares. No one cares if I've got more gray hairs this week than I did last week. They don't. As long as I'm giving them value, that's the key thing.